This episode of Horror Movie Talk brought to you by Costco Meatballs. I don't know, maybe we should just do Costco Meatballs and rice. For when dinner comes around and you're barely more ambitious than sandwiches, buy Costco Meatballs in the frozen aisle of Costco today. Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, the horror movie podcast where two schlubby guys talk about spoopy movies with your hosts, Bryce Hanson, the cool, collected nihilist, and David Day, a public urinator who is always right.
Hey!
This is a podcast for lovers of horror movies, old and new, who want to hear about what's in theaters, what's streaming, fresh takes on old classics, and terrible movies that are bad enough to be good. I'm Bryce Hanson.
And I'm David Day, and I'll have you know, Bryce changed the intro on this, and I was not made aware until I heard it. I don't appreciate that.
It's true, though.
I mean, just because it's true doesn't mean it's got to be part of my intro.
You disgust me.
Look, man. Look, any red-blooded American male who says that they don't pee in public is either a liar or they're a liar.
Right. No, I admit I'll pee in public, but we're talking about like campsite on a tree hidden. Tell the audience about your public urination.
Look,
the details.
I'm not going to be pinned to a cross here.
How close was the closest person while you publicly urinated?
They knew about it and were laughing about it, all of them, because I was surrounded by my friends at a Slayer concert, where I can't think of a more appropriate place to pee in public than a Slayer concert. So, and the only oh, God damn it. I can't believe this is happening on a pod. I mean, I guess I should have known that it was coming up. I just forgot. I did know that it was coming. Look, I had 88 ounces of beer in me at this point, and it hit me like a ton of bricks in the middle of Lamb of God. And, you know, jokers to the left, me clowns to the right. I couldn't get out of there. And furthermore, I wasn't going to miss Omerta, so there you go. Middle of the Lamb of God set. I just got down on my knees, you know, whipped it out. Let her go. Now, my friends were in front of me. They were downhill from the stream. They were blockading it, making sure that other passersby didn't you know.
So you sullied their shoes first, is what you're saying,
right?
So you leave out that this is in a venue, this seated venue,
which made getting out much harder.
That's true,
because you're boxed in by huge heaping Slayer fans who are
like skinheads.
Well, I'm not going to lie and say that there weren't skinheads there. It's a small subsection of Slayer fans that Slayer's probably not too proud about. No one should be proud about it, but yeah, they were probably there.
That's right. I'm just giving them a hard time.
Yeah.
That's a question to the audience. What's your worst public urination story?
That's
try to beat.
Look,
among the masses,
I can't think of a more. It would be disrespectful not to.
All right, so today first of all, let's just give a couple plugs. Our website is horrormovietalk.com. You can also find us on social media. We're most active on Facebook. We're also on Twitter and Instagram.
Let us know if we should be more active in one of those, if you would like, if that's your preferred method of social media.
Yeah. We post episodes every Wednesday of Horror Movie Talk. This is new. We're moving to a weekly format. We've got a couple episodes in the bag that are just waiting in the wings, and a bunch of new horror movies coming out in advance of Halloween. So we're trying to up the schedule. Please subscribe and leave a review of our podcast on iTunes. That helps us out a lot and helps with the visibility of the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about The Little Stranger. And how we'll go over the episode is, first off, we'll give an overview of the movie and review and a score. We've gotten a lot of feedback about wanting specifics about what our scoring system is. It's 1 to 10, 1 being just a miserable dredge to get through, 5 being average. It hits all the marks It's just an average movie.
It's acceptable. It's not fantastic. It's just normal.
Doesn't make you angry. Just makes you feel, yep, I saw a movie. And then 10 being just absolutely fantastic. Just best movie of the year type quality. Transcends the genre. So a couple examples of 10s, recent 10s. The Witch. Hereditary for me.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing an episode on that.
These are recent 10s. And so, like, The Witch, probably a recent 10 that will be a little bit more forgotten. It will probably die down in my memory as time goes on. It's a fantastic movie, but it won't... I don't think it will be an Exorcist.
Yeah. I mean, they're not necessarily the most popular, but if you watch them, it would just be hard to disagree that they're not great movies.
Long-standing 10s are like Psycho, The Exorcist,
right?
Jaws.
5s, the most recent 5 was The Meg, our last episode. Mm-hmm. Just popcorn movie. You can't. It's not good, not bad.
Yeah, it's just there.
And then we'll...
thanks to Mark for the feedback on... a lot of people seem to be very interested in the scoring system, which is interesting to me. But, you know, if you want to know more about... If you want us to do something different about it or add to it, let us know.
Right. I think in general, we don't get excited easily. So if it's above a 5, then that's probably a pretty dang good movie. It's worth seeing. I mean, I think 5s are worth seeing because I like movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think 2s are worth seeing. I think because I love terrible movies too. But I think for the most part, stuff's around a 5 or maybe a little less or a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in general, neither of us is terribly swayed. You know, we don't have a lot of energy one where we're pretty neutral going into and coming out of movies.
Right. Later, we'll be doing a couple bits. We'll do taglines where we replace the movie's taglines with something that we think is more appropriate. We'll be talking about what's going on our Facebook page and a little bit of horror movie news today. Mostly talking about trailers and what we're excited about. Thanks again for listening, and let's get into the show. So we went to see The Little Stranger. And if you love horror movies, but wish they were more like The Remains of the Day, starring Anthony Hopkins, then this is the movie for you.
What's The Remains of the Day?
If anyone's seen Remains of the Day, that will be a hilarious joke.
Okay.
Here's the trailer of The Little Stranger, not Remains of the Day.
The first time I saw Hundreds Hall was July 1919. Nothing could have prepared me for the spell it cast. When I saw the house again 30 years later, I could hardly comprehend the change in the place. Why don't you tell me what's going on? You wouldn't believe me.
Mother, this is Dr. Faraday.
How did you find the patient?
A little under the weather. It's war shock.
They brought Caroline home to nurse him.
I'd heard they were troubled. Very hush-hush about it. A long time ago, there was a child here.
What are you doing here?
Susan died before I was born.
There's something evil in this house.
That's nonsense.
Betty, what are you doing here?
You rang for me, miss.
I did not.
Well, Mrs. Ayres was upstairs.
Rang itself, did it? What is all the noise?
She's here. That's impossible.
Your mind is playing tricks. Susan is a memory. It can all be explained.
How innocent you are.
I'm worried, Doctor. Last night he said he could smell smoke. And I couldn't smell anything.
It's delusions seemed almost contagious. Someone's playing games.
People are capable of nasty impulses.
There's something in this house that hates us.
You do not belong here.
Oh, yes. There'll be tricks tonight.
What happened next? It was a mystery to me.
The Little Stranger can be found in theaters right now. If you're confused about hearing about this movie, that you haven't heard about it and you're a horror movie fan, I guess I wouldn't be that surprised. It's barely a horror movie.
Well, this is a great example of a trailer that I saw many times in horror movies. You know, it was targeted at horror movie fans. So I saw the trailer for this in other horror movies, and it sells itself as a horror movie very much.
Yeah.
The trailer is not what the movie is.
Right. The Little Stranger is about Dr. Faraday, played by Domhnall Gleeson. What's his name? Hux from Star Wars.
Yeah.
And many other movies. If you've seen a redhead man in a movie in the past 10 years, it's been Domhnall Gleeson. Plays an English country doctor that starts making calls to an estate of the wealthy Ayres family. The estate is called Hundreds Hall. Think Downton Abbey, but sadder. Dr. Faraday has a history with the estate, as his mother used to work as a housemaid there. Nowadays, the estate is a rundown shadow of its former self, and it's only inhabited by the eligible bachelorette Caroline Ayres, played by Ruth Wilson, her horrifically battle-scarred brother Roderick, played by Will Poulter, her mother, played by Charlotte Rampling, and the lone housemaid Betty. But are they the only heirs living there? We slowly find out that the house is haunted, kind of, sort of, and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's left up to debate whether... I mean, I was confused whether it was even haunted, because it really doesn't sell it at all.
I have a lot of theories on this.
So before we get into spoilers and talking about the details of the plot and what we liked and didn't like, just want to give a quick review. It was a slow movie. I mean, it could only be generously defined as a horror movie. It's about 5% horror movie.
Yeah.
And it's like if a 90s family sitcom did a horror episode.
Yeah.
It would be about that much.
Yeah.
Scary material.
It's less scary than, or maybe as scary as a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, even Treehouse of Horror would maybe like the later Treehouse of Horrors, where they just get into kind of just more taboo subjects and not actual horror.
Right. American Horror Story is leaps and bounds scarier than this.
It's slightly interesting because of the human drama, but the scares fall flat. I give it a score 4 out of 10.
See, for me, this is a 5 because it's interesting enough on its own. You know, it wasn't offensive at any point. It was just a little confusing because I thought we were, because we're a horror movie podcast and we were there. And so I was like, who
else was in the theater with us?
Old people.
Lots of old people.
Yeah. They were gearing up for a period piece, which this was.
Yeah.
More so than a horror movie. They were like, oh, how quaint. It was kind of that.
So what score did you say a score?
I would give it a 5 personally.
5?
It wasn't terribly. It wasn't bad. Like, it was not a bad movie to me, but I could see how a 4 would be where you're going with it. I'll tell you what, it made me think a lot. We did talk about it after the movie, and I was interested enough to kind of look a little bit deeper afterward.
Yeah, it did inspire discussion, but my question is it did it inspire discussion because it wasn't effective, or did it inspire discussion because it was
accurate,
cheap?
Yeah.
Or did it inspire discussion because it was actually thought-provoking?
I'll tell you what, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
it was
true.
Like the scenery and the location filming and like all the seasons and like the house itself. Wow, all of it very pretty.
Domhnall Gleeson's hairline was fascinating. I mean, lots of hero shots of the back of his head.
Yeah.
And it is exquisite craftsmanship of whoever did his hair.
Yeah. It reminded me of your hair.
Yeah.
Often. Oh. Yeah, because it's so like coiffed, you know? It is very clearly has the comb marks in it. And your hair does that. You very free. I mean, it's obvious that you comb your hair and care about how it looks when you leave your house.
Yeah, yes, I comb my hair.
Right. I have rolled out of bed and walked into the every day of my life since I was 12. Yeah. I'd say I stopped combing my hair at 12, but people like Domhnall and Bryce are keeping it suave.
Right. Well, I mean, it's different hair types. If I rolled out of bed, you would definitely be able to tell.
Yeah.
With your hair, I mean,
there's nothing to be done.
Yeah.
It's just does that. It's just what it is.
It just gets
poofier.
Have you ever grown out a fro? Could you do a fro if you wanted to?
I could do a fro. It gets heavy. It's not fine enough to do a fro. At about 3 inches, you can do a decent fro, and then past that, it's just going to get greasy and weighed down. It's going to look like it's going to look like a kind of gross mat of grease.
All right, well, let's get into spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yay!
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 Okay. So I think to start out with this movie about how it's barely a horror movie or confusing, like who it's targeted to. I think the most telling thing is the previews that they showed before the movie.
Yeah, what were they?
Like, it jumped between horror movies, like legit horror movies, and gosh, I can't remember the other ones, but they were just regular drama or period piece movies. Yeah, it was just hard to know what the audience for this movie was.
Yeah,
looking at the theater, it was a lot of old people, and it was probably
I don't know how
old
they
people.
heard.
It's the people that don't know what movies are out. They look at the newspaper, and they're like, "What's playing?" And they don't want to see the Meg. They don't want to see a superhero movie.
Right.
They're like, oh,
this is about 1950s, 40s.
40s.
No, it wasn't 40s. Was it before the war? Felt like it was the 50s.
No, I think it said it was in the 40s.
Okay. Oh, I'll buy either one of those around that time.
Right.
It wasn't during the war.
No.
But yeah, it was confused about. I was confused about who it was for afterwards.
It was very, very English.
Going into it, yes, it was very English. Going into it, I was sure that it was a horror movie. And then about 50 minutes through, I turned to Bryce with earnest concern and said, "Is this a horror movie?
Yeah. Are we supposed to be in here?
Are we supposed to be here?" Like I was legitimately confused, and I had a little bit of that that disorientation that hits you after watching 9 trailers before a movie, and you go, "Where am I?
What movie are we seeing?
What is happening?" That hit me about 50 minutes through, and I became alarmed and worried that like we were seeing the wrong movie or something like that. That experience was interesting and new to happen halfway through a movie.
Right. Yeah. When I say it's very English, I think it is a very English style scary story.
Mm-hmm.
Like A Christmas Carol. Like technically,
yes,
that's a ghost story.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
It does not dwell on the dread of the supernatural. It's just kind of incidental.
Yeah, incidental dread.
Right. That being said,
that's a really good point. And I would say that this is an English feeling horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So the movie starts out, it's kind of a flashback of this Dr. Faraday character when he's a child and he's visiting Hundreds Hall, and he does not feel he's not one of these wealthy people, and he's out of place, and by happenstance he's able to kind of wander around the halls of Hundreds Hall. I don't know, do they have 100 halls in Hundreds Hall? Maybe that's why it's named.
I don't know, man. It was a huge house.
Yeah.
It was 3 or 4 stories and palatial.
Right. And the main thing is that he feels out of place. When they take a picture, some, girl Sookie from the Ayers family stands right in front of him, so he can't be seen in the photograph, and I guess that makes him sad. And then
sad/mad. Mad sad.
Later in the movie, it's revealed that dun dun dun, he steals a little acorn from a frame.
Yeah, from a like a mirror frame, like a wooden mirror frame that has like a bunch of like carved, like beautiful acorns and leaves and stuff. He like walks up and snaps off an acorn.
Yeah,
a lot of intent is placed on that snap. Like that snap is the snap heard around this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sound effect of the snap is used over and over again. Of just,
pop!
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean it. I messed up the...
So, that's like one of the things that was confusing to me is what is the motivation of Faraday and how much significance does that have on the current day Faraday and his mindset?
Yeah, they did a real bad job of conveying that because as it turned out, it's very important. This is one of those movies that's very Sixth Sense-y. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, let's go through the whole movie and then we'll tell you that there's a twist, right? But there's no...
But not actually tell you what the twist is.
But not actually tell you what the twist is, and also like make you completely guess. Like there's no feeling throughout that there's going to be a twist.
Kind of what it's setting up throughout the whole movie. I mean, just like any period piece, it's a lot about the class system. It's a lot about people living in these palatial estates that have hordes of servants to write this piece on homelessness. And Organ Symphony was playing it, and they're trying to ask him, the meaning behind stuff, and he was really hesitant to
attribute anything.
Describe it and describe what he meant by stuff. And a lot of the early movements were very avant-garde and whatever. And then there's kind of stuff that was very tongue-in-cheek. But one of the things he said was that in any art form, it's important to have some level of ambiguity, especially in great art.
Yeah,
having a level of ambiguity, and yeah, I too love that it does movies that don't hold your hand and let you just experience it, and you have to draw your own conclusions.
It's the best. It's a mental puzzle that you get, that they give to you, and then you get to unravel. It's one of the things that makes a movie or like you say, any piece of art great. Right. Now, with that being said, there was almost too much left unanswered in this movie.
Yeah, I'm left like wondering, is the ambiguity earned or is it
accidental? Yeah, accidental ambiguity.
Or is it they just don't know how to tie things together or convey what they want to convey, and then at the end they're just like,
I think
whatever you think.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna lean a little bit after having done some homework, and that's important to mention because the movie interested me enough to go and do homework afterward. Right. So there's something there. But after doing some homework, I started piecing together even more parts of the puzzle and going, oh, this was more intentional than I thought. Leaving the movie, I was confused. I was a little bit like, what was that about? And what about this and that? But if you look at the poster for the movie, the whole answer is right in the poster even. Which is what's his name? His strange name?
Faraday?
Yeah, Faraday, but what's his...
Oh,
Domhnall. Yeah, it's like a side portrait of him, only the important part of his face has fallen off. Uh-huh. As if he were a statue that had been carved of stone. And the important parts of the stone had been weathered by time and had come off.
Right. Well, it's like a oil painting with the canvas falling off from disrepair or whatever.
Something like that. I think there's a few different ones. Yeah. But in any case, it made it clear that this man is falling apart. It is him who is the broken one. It's not the... you can draw a lot of conclusions just from looking at that poster after having watched the movie and go, this is very intentionally him. And it's just that, and to be fair to them, at the end, it really points the finger at him.
Yeah.
Albeit confusingly, but it does.
Because there's, like I said, I predicted that they were going to just place it all on Faraday. But then I go back and think about some of the stuff that happens, and I don't think that he could do that. But no, I think the answers are in there. Let's just go over kind of the bad things that happen in the movie real quick. So it starts out...
oh, yeah, man.
It starts out and... really stuff starts going wrong during this one party that they have, and they haven't had any kind of
gathering
at this house for a very long time because it's in ill repair, and they're just kind of stapling stuff together to make it presentable for just a couple people showing up.
Yeah.
And the party is attended by the whole Ayers family minus Roderick because he's having anxiety issues. Roderick is the battle-scarred, just horrifically scarred veteran.
Young veteran.
Burns over,
good 50% of his body.
90% of his body or something.
Yeah.
Both of his legs are probably just completely mangled.
Oh, yeah. And his face is... Yeah, good makeup on him.
Yeah. Great makeup on him. Great acting, too.
Yeah.
And so he's not wanting to come to the party, and he... says some foreboding things like I've got a bad feeling, and going to Faraday and saying don't you feel that, basically. And then during the party, I don't know her name, but I'll call her Veruca Salt because she was just
the little girl,
the little spoiled girl that their parents are making a point of not having any rules whatsoever because it might cause neuroses.
They're a guest. She's a guest in this house,
right?
And I believe she's the only young child in the house at this point.
She is very...
during this party.
Fixated on the family dog, which is an old, is it a Rottweiler?
Lab. No, it's a lab. Black.
Big fat lab.
Black lab.
And she kind of follows it behind this curtain, and they're playing around, and then she gets viciously mauled by the dog. And so you're like, okay... Yeah. Roderick was right. He, foretold bad happening. So that's the first thing that happens. And then later in the movie, let's just go through these real quick.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I just find myself drawing connections as we speak.
Right.
And not also. Being more confused.
Right. Roderick later... He's in his study or in his office.
It's like his room. Yeah. It's basically his bedroom and his office.
And he's yelling at the wall or something like that, and then we get a brief shot showing that the bookcase is going up in flames.
It seems like a dream almost, like he's watching it happen, but it's not happening. Like it's happening for him and no one else.
It's portrayed as spontaneous combustion, basically.
Yeah, like the house is, like the house is out to get him.
Right. And I think he says something to that effect that,
the house is too
wrong.
much for me. Yeah. I can't take it.
And so Roderick gets committed by Dr. Faraday, or Dr. Faraday brings in a psychiatric doctor, and Roderick gets carted away to the loony bin. And then,
by the way, it should be noted that Roderick was in the process of selling the property and the house.
Right.
And so as he is ramping up his efforts to sell the house.
Well, he's not selling the house yet, but he's selling the property to get some money.
Right.
But he's selling very important property as opposed to like the scrub that he initially wanted to.
Right. And right before he's getting committed, he had sold the house. He said, "Oh, it's almost done. Like I almost have this shit gone."
I missed that part.
Like this house is almost gone from us and we don't have to worry about it. And right then he gets committed by Faraday.
Right.
But it wasn't insidious at all when it happened, really. It was just like, yeah, guys, I mean, look at him. He's got PTSD. He's seeing fire. He's all scarred up.
Right. The next weird thing that happens is they start hearing some things around the house. A lot of what's in the trailer is in the next part, and they see little scratches of this dead daughter's name. So the daughter that blocked Faraday's way in that photo, later that day ended up dead.
Later the day, so way back when Faraday was young and just visiting the house.
Right.
Yeah, later that day, this little girl who was the family's first daughter died. And I believe that was the beginning of the end for this unfortunate family. That was the first in a series of many unfortunate events that led to this house and the property needing to be sold just so that they can get this once prosperous family can make ends meet.
So these mysterious scratches and lettering starts appearing, and it showed that it's the name Sookie is doing it, and the mother is kind of freaking out, and they're just assuming that this ghost is here. And so fast forward, mother, she's walking with Faraday, and this is the one supernatural thing that I couldn't say. They could go back and say Faraday set this up. They're walking along, and then all of a sudden, Lady Ayres, or Mrs. Ayres, the mom, started getting scratched on her skin underneath her clothing. Just scratched enough to bleed through her clothing. And then later she commits suicide with a shattered picture frame. Yeah. And it's all kind of insinuated that she's being driven insane by this.
Yeah, that she's being haunted by a poltergeist or something.
Yeah. And then finally, the finale, or should we wait?
Now, before that, I just want to point out the other thing you can't attach to Faraday in any way, shape, or form, as far as I can tell, is the dog attacking that little girl in the party. That first point you brought up.
Yeah.
The dog attacks her, and it's like an alarming sound, and it's like a spooky sound along with a dog growling and mauling this little girl.
But it's also that's one of those that I would attribute to could just be a regular
happenstance.
Occurrence.
Yeah.
So anything that's supposedly supernatural could be said to be naturally occurring. So the dog attacking a girl that's probably sticking her finger up its ass.
Dogs attack kids.
Dogs do that.
That's what they do.
Even old dogs. And the fire in the study, all you got to do is show Roderick lighting a match in a flashback, and that's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Lady Ayres committing suicide. I mean,
people commit suicide.
People commit suicide.
Yeah.
Like I said, the one thing that just doesn't make any sense is the scratches spontaneously appearing on her skin. That's like the only one that couldn't be retconned to me.
Yeah, everything else can definitely and does get a decent enough explanation.
So they do make
what about the bells ringing?
Oh, the bells. Well, they even say that in the scene where it's just mice.
Yeah, but that's like the point of the movie that the trailer hung its hat on. Like it was like ding 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 ding. Shows these bells, you know, these servant bells showing all these different rooms asking for attention. There's nobody in the house.
Right.
But then like so you're like when the bells are ringing, you're like, okay, here comes the spook. Gonna get spooky. And then they just
open a door and they're like, oh, there's mice in there.
They could have drawn it out a little bit. They just open a drawer and they're like, oh yeah, mice. They're pulling on all the strings. And it's like, that was so, God damn it, that's lame. You could have made it spooky.
So they do make a point of mentioning poltergeists. Faraday talks about theories of, you know, a conscious and subconscious mind that's separate from you. And, you know, the doctor that he's talking to is like, well, what you're talking about is a poltergeist.
And he's like, well, maybe, you know.
So
like,
that must, he's talking about how this insanity that's in this family in this house is catching, and that he himself feels like he's starting to believe weird stuff is going on and that it's not explainable. And so they kind of hand that to you, that poltergeist is a thing, and so that is possibly key to interpret the movie. I think it is either the dead girl haunting the house, or it's Faraday acting as kind of like a Carrie type situation, poltergeist making things happen around him.
Yeah.
Because of his intention. So it's made pretty clear that Faraday wants into this life, and when things happen that threaten that,
must be
bad things happen after that.
Right.
So Roderick, you know, is going to sell off some of the property. And he's like, no, you can't do that. We got to stop that. Like Faraday is all of a sudden very, very concerned about the property itself, and he's just their doctor.
As I'm thinking about it, there's also that part where Roderick had sold a piece of the property, and there's work being done on that piece of the property by construction workers to build like housing for low-income people or something to that extent.
Just normal people, but they're low-income people.
Right, by comparison. But if you recall, like one of those workers got really deathly ill, right? And it had to slow down and stop construction.
Huh.
I forgot all about that. I'm just remembering it now.
I didn't even notice that attachment, that relation.
Yeah, but you're right. As you said, you know, anything that threatens the sanctity of this house falling into Faraday's hands ends up poorly.
Right.
And, you know, he's a doctor, so he is trusted in this community. This is back when doctors made house calls and were obliged to make sure that the people that they treated were okay.
Right.
And there's many parts where he's kind of touting that power a little bit jokingly, but also not joking. Like,
right. So the other thing with the mother, so a major plot point is Faraday eventually proposes to get married to Caroline Ayres, and it
seemed that was so awkwardly forced.
Yeah.
It was like watching somebody get marriage raped. Right. It was not. He was like, just marry me. Please, can we get married? And she was like, had tears in her eyes.
It's like trying to get my wife to watch a scary movie. Just like,
I don't want
just
to
please,
so bad.
Please. It's like, no, actually, it's not anything like that because my wife would never say yes. But so he proposes to get married, and then when Caroline says, "Oh, well, we can't live here," he's very like, "Oh, well, we have to."
I had to turn down that other job in London. She's like, "But it was my way out of this horrible house. I need to get out of here." And he's like, "No, man,
saying,
that's
like,
why. No, it's okay."
She's
this.
Also she's blaming her mother. Like, we can't live here with my mother while we're married. And he says, she'll have to live with it.
She'll get used to it.
She'll get used to it or something. And so there's kind of this threat of the mother being the cause of Faraday and Caroline not being able to live there. And so all of a sudden, when Mrs. Ayres kills herself, it's like, question mark, question mark, question mark, is this Faraday? And then finally, the very end, might as well spoil the whole thing, Caroline is investigating some sound in the middle of the night that went bump in the night. And this is after her mother broke off the marriage to Faraday, saying, like, I can't get married to you.
That's right.
And then...
And he's like, we'll sleep on it. Just, it'll be cool.
And then she is investigating the sound, and then she's shoved over the balcony on the 3rd floor and falls to her death. And the last thing she says is like something like, "Oh, it's you," or "It's you."
Yeah.
And so she recognizes whoever it is.
Whoever is about to push her off of the balcony.
Right. And so that's also highly suspect that Faraday is...
It could be either... Like, the insinuation that the movie makes the whole time is this is her sister, Sookie, who died tragically when she was very young. This movie makes a hard attempt the whole way through to pin this on the ghost of Sookie.
Yeah.
Or Susan.
But it could easily be Faraday, except for a couple just actual supernatural things that I can't... I mean, unless he is some kind of magician where he can make scratches appear.
Yeah.
After, but it doesn't say anything about him examining the mom, and
it's a very interesting movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'd give it a 5 instead of a 4, just because it's like, I'm still kind of torn about it, and it's well done enough to make me think, well, I mean, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I'm having a good time trying to puzzle it out.
Right. So anyways, it all, and the very end, and then it shows kind of a epilogue where Faraday is in the house after it's even more decrepit, and after all the development in the adjoining land that got sold was developed, and you see like, oh yeah, the view is definitely, kind of ruined from this house, and it's like filled with leaves and stuff is falling apart, and he's looking through, and the question he asks is like, well, what is he still doing hanging around there? Everyone's dead, and like, why is he even there? Like, it shows that this house was really important to him. And then the final shot is like him as a boy at the top of the balcony,
looking down at the body,
looking down,
or at the spot where he had pushed.
But then it's like that.
What's her name?
Caroline.
Where it's basically him as a child standing at the 3rd floor, looking down at where she had just died.
Right. But what makes it confusing? What makes it confusing is that it's that decrepit, like leaf-filled.
Yeah. So it's the old house. It's like now time. It's not old time. It's now time.
And it's not the time that Caroline got pushed.
Right.
So if I was to guess what they were trying to say by that is, it's Domhnall's character.
It's Faraday being jealous.
The jealousy
of a child.
Yeah, having the jealousy of the child push his spurned fiance.
That's what the core of his inspiration.
Yeah. But then again, just the mixed message of it's in the old house, and it's just him showing in the flashbacks of when he was a kid, he wasn't at the top of the stairs, so that's got to be meaningful that it's that top balcony. I mean, as we were walking out, David, you were talking about, it's showing that Faraday killed Sookie, right? You remember that?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Because she died that day. The day that he learned of his love for this house and this life.
And she kind of pissed him off because she blocked his view of the camera, and when he ripped off the acorn, she was like smirking at him.
She was there to witness his mother beating him.
Slapped the shit out of him.
Yeah, dude, he got molested with that hand. Like, she smacked the shit out of him.
Yeah. But when I did a little more research on this movie, looked on the Wikipedia page, so it should be worth mentioning this movie is based off of a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And
also called The Littlest Stranger?
Yep.
Okay.
And apparently from the comments that I've seen, it's very true to the novel in terms of the plot. And reading the Wikipedia entry, it hits all the beats. But what people say is it leaves out a lot of the character development for Faraday and a lot of stuff about his motivations, which is like, okay, yeah, that is kind of missing. I bet there's a piece missing of giving you a little more clues to that. And then
that was my immediate thought coming out of this movie was, man, this would make a spectacular book. And then you said, well, it's based on a book. And I said, I'm sure it's much better.
Right.
Because this is book fodder. This is where it would shine.
And then the thing that ruins your theory, I read that in the book, Sookie dies because of getting like dysentery or something. It's like a sickness. She wasn't murdered.
She was down with the sickness.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be that same. It could just be the malevolent, childish spirit of Faraday, like inflicting evil upon those who get in his way.
Yeah,
right. The same way that the construction worker was made ill. Right.
There's a couple quotes that kind of point to that. I think it's Caroline says both of these. She says, "Whenever you go away, something terrible happens or something horrible happens." And then she also says, "Sometimes I think you want me to be tired."
And he does.
Because that's after she's saying she wants to do something that he doesn't want her to do, and he's like, "You're just tired."
Yeah.
Like, we'll talk about this later. And she's like, "Sometimes I think you want me to be tired."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So,
who would like this movie?
I wrote down who would like this movie. Who would like this movie? The Dowager Countess of Downton Abbey would love this movie.
I don't get it, but it's funny. Why?
I mean, just like old people.
Oh, okay.
Will like this movie. People that like thoroughly English period pieces would like this.
Yeah, if you like Matlock, this is a long version.
If you like the spooky episodes of Quantum Leap, you'd probably like this movie.
If you like movies that feel like they're 3 hours but are only an hour and a half, you'd like this movie.
Right.
This movie felt like it was a million years. I was just like, what is and we got out and I was like, it's got to be like, we went in, what was the time we went in to see it? It was like 1.
3.
Oh,
3
3. I thought it was like 6. We got out and it's like 5.
Yeah, it was 5 o'clock. So I mean, we went into the theater at 3 and there's probably, 15.
It was an hour and a half movie,
of previews, and then yeah. I don't know. I didn't think it felt too long because I'm used to like period stuff. I've got a wife that's into that, and
yeah, it's a great period movie. Like I said, it's beautiful. It has amazing everything, like everything except it being clear. But I mean, they even go to the trouble of like showing some of his like patients and what his normal day is, and like, let's go to a party, and like all this superfluous stuff that doesn't matter. It's very period feeling, it's just like, here's a slice of life back then.
Right. Hear my baby crying in the background.
He is a cutie, man.
Yeah.
He's like a good looking little man.
We went to Mount St. Helens, the Johnson Observatory.
Oh, you did?
Yesterday.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah, we went after church, and gosh, that's anytime you go out with a family with 3 kids.
This is always a fucking nightmare.
Oh my gosh. So it's 2.5 hour drive or something like that. And it was a miracle that we didn't stop. We just went all the way there, which is amazing with kids.
Yeah.
Got all the way up there and then, spent maybe an hour at the Johnson Observatory. We didn't even go on any hikes. We just looked at the museum.
Yeah. There's enough to do at just at Johnson Ridge Observatory.
And
I used to work out there. Used to be trails maintenance out in Mount St. Helens for many years.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's interesting seeing how much has changed since last time I was there. I mean, it's still pretty desolate, but
it's really coming back.
Stuff's recovering really well. You can see all the way along the flow that there's some greenery.
It's been
popping
like
up in
36 years, I think, since the explosion.
So it was 80.
82. Oh, was it 80?
It was 80. May.
80. Okay, so 38.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anyways, we went up there, and he was like, it was probably the 5th time he was called a Gerber baby. It's like, he totally is. He's got like the curly hair and chubby face.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks like a total like miniature version of you.
Yeah.
Just a
except with curly hair.
And like hope. Joy.
No worry in the world.
Yeah.
Within a poopy diaper.
Oh man, he like, it's such a joy to see him, because I walk in the house and his face just lights up. You know, he's like, oh, he's just happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unlike us.
No, we're pretty happy.
Yeah.
I'd say.
All right, so that's I think we're wrapped up on
spoilers.
The Little Stranger. Tell us what you think. If you've seen the movie, I don't know. Did you like it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the more I talk about it, the more I feel like, yeah, maybe it is a 5 or a 6, but I don't know.
It's not a 6, I don't think.
Yeah.
It does not go above an average.
Yeah.
I don't think.
It's not. I mean, it's slightly interesting. I think even the drama could be a little more interesting than it was.
It's weird how entertainment works, right? Because The Meg was just a real piece of crap as far as a story goes,
right?
Right, but
the visuals,
especially compared to this,
yeah,
you know, compared to this, The Meg had no story at all. But it was fun enough, you know, it was like just eye candy and like corny lines and like China's going to take over the world.
Right.
And it was entertaining in a totally different way.
It's already proven itself aggressive towards boats.
Oh man, I can't remember any of the funny lines. Those sharks have no fins. Like, okay. But it was as entertaining, almost. It was about the same level of movie, just totally different variety. Yeah. Like, it's just strange to me how entertainment works on our brains.
Yeah.
Because this is about where the Meg was, but just for totally different reasons.
All right, let's move on. Do you want to do the commercial?
But first, a word from our sponsor. Taglines is brought to you by Costco Taquitos. I thought we had more room in the freezer. Don't buy your roller food from expensive convenience stores. Buy it in bulk with Costco Taquitos. Just shove them in your freezer. You know you'll eat them someday. I gotta practice for when those real sponsors can start rolling in.
I know, man.
Here's Tagline. I think that's brilliant. I want to pat ourselves on the back for that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I was skeptical, but it's good. All right, The Little Stranger, a spot of fright.
A spot of fright. I like that. Like a spot of tea. Mm-hmm. There wasn't enough tea in this movie. Normally, British anything is all about tea references. Hey, can we have some tea now? I sure would like it if someone put on a fresh cup. I'd like a fresh cuppa. Can I... tea. Give me more. Like, there was no...
This is David's conception of any British period piece is all tea all the time.
It's not my conception. It just is my observation of all British shit is like, where's the fucking tea? Like, it can all be summed up in like, also, did we mention tea? There's just too much tea going on. There wasn't enough tea references in this to be an accurate period piece set in Britain. The only thing to fear is, well, we're working on that. Just hang out a little longer. Oop, the end.
That was good. The Little Stranger, the remains of the day. Like bodily remains of the day. Like a sip of the day, except their remains.
Right.
It's a play on
No, it's
the
great.
title of that movie. I have to explain it for to be funny, but it is funny once I explain it.
Now I'm laughing.
That's how comedy works.
Inside. Okay, hang on. This one requires some inflection. Tom York and Bjork are on a collision course, and the only...
Okay, let's start that again.
I love the idea that Dom Hall looks so much like Tom York to me. It's ridiculous.
No way, man.
Oh man, he looks just the same, and the lead actress looks just like Bjork.
Oh,
to
man.
me, I was just like,
that is a bizarre. I could not disagree more.
okay. Well, I mean,
Domhnall Gleeson
your
is-
favorite band ever is Radiohead,
Right.
But how could you? They're both gingers. They're both British.
Tom York is not a ginger.
He's not a ginger.
He is not a ginger.
We'll agree to disagree.
Absolutely not.
Agree to disagree. You know, I mean, this is just one of the... Oh, there's no way to know, is what I'm trying to say.
All right. Anyways, we'll accept the premise of your tagline and proceed.
Tom York and Bjork are on a collision course, and the only road to redemption is through the house that Hall built. Join us this summer for The Little Stranger. Hall, wasn't the house named Hall?
No, it's
Hall
called,
House?
It's called Hundreds Hall.
Hundreds Hall? I thought it was Hall House.
No.
Ah.
So that
It ruined my whole tagline.
there's many things that ruined that tagline.
That was a... I won't stand for these wild allegations.
All right. Well, let's I'll do this one. The Little Stranger. The heirs and their heirs' heirs.
The heirs and their heirs' heirs.
So the heirs is the name of the family. This is another one that I need to explain, and it will be funny. The heirs is the name of the family. Heirs as in the descendants.
Uh-huh.
Heirs as in mistakes. The heirs and their heirs' heirs.
Yeah,
Okay,
all right.
that's appropriate response.
My final one is meh, the movie.
I've got a couple. They are varying quality, but maybe one will make you laugh. Okay, The Little Stranger, the snootiest of poltergeists.
That one's pretty good.
These are just kind of just English phrases. The little stranger, we'll have no more of that nonsense. It'd be better if I had a British accent. Or Little Stranger, just dreadful.
Yeah.
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 Okay, and the last one. The Little Stranger, what's wrong with his face?
Yeah, he had some pretty intense makeup going on.
Yeah.
Those
are taglines.
One of the things I want to mention just real quick. This movie was the constant promise of something interesting and never a delivery on that promise. It was just always like, hey, something interesting is about to happen. How about no, not yet. How about no?
Yeah, even the quote unquote sex scene, that was just a blue balls.
Was there a sex scene?
Well, he starts.
There was a baby? No, it's not. It's
There
not.
was a baby?
There was a baby?
Yeah, so I mean they're coming back, they're a little drunk in the car, and Faraday makes his move, and then she's like, no. So there's probably like a little third base happening, maybe.
Yeah, it looked like it.
But that was like, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So very unrequited love.
So now we move to from the Facebook. This is new to me. I don't know what this segment is. Man, I tell you what, it is hard to get engagement on social media. And it's soul sucking. Like if anybody can like just humor me while we're making posts on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, it would make it a little bit easier, or maybe worse.
Hey,
I don't know.
I think we've gotten some pretty good engagement.
I think we have too. It's just you're always thinking about it,
right?
You know, I was talking to our mutual friend Eric recently, and he was like, and he, you know, he has a band, and so they, you know, they do a lot of social media stuff, and he's like, oh man, it's necessary, but it just sucks your soul. And I was like, yeah, that is what it does, isn't it? Because you're required to look at social media,
right?
And a little bit of your soul hinges on it, you know. hinges on somebody being like, "Hey, that was cool," and you being like, give me those sweet endorphin rush of somebody liking something that I did.
Okay, so let me reboot the intro from the Facebook.
Ooh, the unfriended reverse message, the upside down message sound.
So I just wanted to kind of pull some stuff that we've been doing on the Facebook page. Did a couple questions and polls, I guess one of each, but sounds like we're really, doing it up on Facebook. Anyways, after our last episode on the Meg, we posted a question to the Facebook page. What is your favorite movie that uses the ocean or an abyss to inspire dread?
Yeah.
And we got a lot of responses off of it. Alicia Clausen said Open Water, which is a great response.
Yeah. That was one of the ones that came immediately to my mind.
Scott Allen says Finding Nemo. Garrett, your brother, says Captain Phillips.
I'm the captain now.
Justin going traditional is Jaws.
Oh, yeah, man. And he said Deep Blue Sea.
And The Sphere.
Oh, man, Sphere. I wanted to talk about that. Sphere, that's a great call because I remember being a early teenager when The Sphere came out and just that was dreadful to me. Like, it inspired terror within me.
Yeah, I think I read the book before I saw the movie. And I don't remember anything about either one of them.
It was very claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And it was like you get near this sphere that's they discovered at the bottom of the ocean and it's all gold and shit starts apparating. Like your worst nightmares start coming true. And it was just it was like Event Horizon basically, but underwater and before. I think it was before Event Horizon.
Right. Last response was from Evan reading the 9 hours on the Hobbit box set.
That is a truly dreadful feeling.
Talking about the runtime.
Yeah, looking at the runtime for the Hobbit. Oof.
Yeah.
I only have seen, I think I saw the first one and the second one, the one that ended with Smaug. I didn't see the last one.
I think I only saw the first one.
I mean, I love Lord of the Rings, obviously.
The quality dropped off so much in The Hobbit between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
I wonder why. I mean, I guess it's because they tried to split it up into make it 3 hour-long movies.
No, I know why, because I saw the behind-the-scenes stuff. They gave Peter Jackson no time for preparation. Like, they were building the train tracks as the train was speeding down the track.
That's very interesting.
And there was, like, vignettes of them shooting battle sequences when they didn't even know what was supposed to happen in the battle sequence. They just had a bunch of people with swords like fighting each other to get shots. And eventually I think Andy Serkis, the guy that plays Gollum, was directing them. And eventually he's like, let's just stop, guys. We don't know what's going on. And then they take like a month-long hiatus to even just figure out
That's very interesting.
Is.
So given that, they're spectacular.
Right.
Well, that really puts it into context because I mean, the obvious comparison is you go Lord of the Rings, Hobbit.
Right.
Look at this one. Look at that one. One of the best trilogies ever made, probably the best trilogy ever made, Lord of the Rings.
I don't know.
What could beat it?
I mean, Star Wars.
Oh, okay. Yes, true. But right next to it. Right next to Star Wars stands Lord of the Rings.
Right. As far as fantasy, I mean, there hasn't even been a film that was successful in the fantasy genre in movies that can compare to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I can't really think of one.
Yeah.
But when you set The Hobbit next to Lord of the Rings, you go, ugh, ew. But when you consider that it was that I didn't know that, it was such a train wreck of a production.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing we had on our Facebook page is we posted a poll of slashers or found footage.
Which do you like more?
Dead Heat, 50% and 50% on each of them.
I'm interested to hear from the people who like slashers more. I get it. Like, I like slashers okay.
I think it might be a generational thing.
It might be. I mean, but if that were so, like, I would be of the slasher category, right? But I'm very much the found footage guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think we both voted for found footage because I think that's what we're into. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't see any obvious lines to draw from who responded.
Now, there's some interesting stuff about both that kind of cross over. So, like, for example, I'm thinking of, like, Halloween, right? So Halloween kind of introduced the first-person perspective camera behind the mask, you know? Which is essentially, that's like found footage way before found footage. It's not footage being found, but it's shot in the same way. It's a lurking but you're put in a perspective of, like, the killer. And then you get to watch him perpetrate these horrible crimes against his family and friends and stuff like that. And then there's also aspects of that inspire dread in found footage that make you feel that kind of that same sense of, like, dreadful helplessness, where because the camera will be, like, stationary, and you'll see somebody walking up behind somebody else, and there's nothing you can do. It's just that kind of thing.
Just wait for it.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. So
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. 50-50. So anyways, that was from the Facebook. Last off, just wanted to cover some horror movie news. Upcoming movies this week. The Nun is coming out. We'll be seeing that and doing another episode next Wednesday. Will be the release. I just want to say the trailer for The Nun has the most effective jump scare I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I know it. I've seen it 5
6 times. Yeah.
In the theater, I'll jump every time. Like, I know exactly what's happening, and even this last time, it still got me.
Yeah, every time it works.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily jump, but it alarms me.
Right.
I go, ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Overlord is another trailer in the movie. From what I can gather, it's a movie about a drug that makes you arch your back.
Yeah. It's a Nazi killing movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think.
Nazi super army movie.
It looked like Wolfenstein the movie to me.
Right. The first time I saw the trailer for Hellfest was at The Little Stranger. Have you seen trailers before?
I've seen that trailer before.
It's like a pretty generic slasher.
Yeah.
Set in a really scary haunted house.
No, unlike a theme park a haunted theme park.
Well, they got like the haunted houses where it's, your generic haunted house that maybe like a high school could make, but now they have these extreme, like 90s, starting with the letter X extreme haunted house where it's an experience and they will literally like dunk your head in water and do shit to you that will actually make you start wondering if you should have done this.
Yeah,
kind of
like
thing.
Like horror, like haunted houses that make you like that advertise on the radio and tell you it's an experience so terrifying you need to sign a waiver.
Yeah, so it's jumping on that train. The Predator. Comes out in 2 weeks. And
so excited for the Predator.
Yeah, the Predator is David's favorite franchise.
I love it.
Other than, I don't know, what do you like more, Predator or Alien?
They're of the same variety. I like Alien more, I'd say. I love the universe. Like, I love the comics. I love the movies. I love Prometheus. I love all of it. It's the best for me.
So the thing that I'm not super interested in Predator. I think the Predator movies that I've seen is probably most of the original because I watched it with my brother when I was a kid. I saw Alien versus Predator, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Ooh. And then this one I'm excited about because it's written and directed by Shane Black.
Did you see Predators? The most recent one with
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody. Yeah, that one was pretty good.
Yeah. So Shane Black, he was actually in the original Predators, and he apparently punched up the script of the original Predator.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so Shane Black is the guy that does a lot of buddy cop movies and is the best at it. So he did Lethal Weapon, and he did The Good Guys most recently, which I loved. I love The Good Guys.
I did not like The Good Guys.
Oh, I loved it. That was great.
That makes it so he's done a couple Donald Glover movies then, because he must have got his hands on Predator 2.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure, but
Predator 2 was one of these it was made naughty to me because I watched as a kid, and there was there was nudity and drugs and extreme gore. There was the Predator pulled a spinal cord and skull out of a dude's body, and so it was.
I thought they did that in the first one too.
No, I don't think so. I don't recall. It's basically Predators do that. That is their deal. They pull your skull and your spinal column out. So
right.
you're probably right. But
so yeah, I think Shane Black on the first one wasn't even really credited, but he was he definitely, his hands were on that script to punch it up a little. Like any of the kind of sarcastic stuff that sells the ridiculous lines. Probably had Shane Black writing it. So I think that is I'm very hopeful for that movie. Just as a public service, I looked at what's arriving on Netflix and Amazon Prime this month. On Netflix, you might be interested in King Kong,
the one with Jack Black.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, September 17th. The Witch, which is, if you have not seen it, see it. It's
fabulous.
One of the greatest movies I've ever watched. I mean, if you're looking for a period piece horror movie,
watch The Witch.
Shit, I don't think there's anything better than The Witch.
Yeah.
Just impressive. The guy used the actual transcripts of court records to write the script. So it's so close to the language. Yeah.
Yeah. Witch trials.
Yeah. Amazon Prime this month, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. Still haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen Poltergeist 2?
No, I've only seen the first one.
I'm not a fan.
I like Poltergeist. I mean, I like anything Spielberg.
Everybody
I can't not hate Spielberg.
I just
Pumpkinhead 1 and 2 will be on Amazon Prime.
Blood Wings.
The Amityville Horror, the original 1979 version, and at the very end of the month, Jigsaw, if you're into that.
I like the Amityville Horror. It's one of those ones, kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, that is made more alarming by the fact that it feels gross. It just feels dirty. And the quality of the film feels dirty, and you feel dirty. Like the subject matter just... Ugh.
And just bomb it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a bomb would blow up the monster, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways.
I mean, if it didn't blow it up, it'd certainly deafen it.
Yeah.
Well, can you hear me now? Oh, that's a good name. A Quiet Place 2. Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Well, you got anything else?
It would be like The Quiet Place 2, and then the tagline is just popcorn crunching sounds.
Shut up. Put it away.
All right, that's it for this episode. Thanks again for listening. Please share the podcast with a friend if you got anyone that you go see horror movies with, or if you're not into this kind of stuff and you're just being friendly and nice to us because you know us. Share it with someone that you do know watches horror movies. We love feedback. Let us know how we're doing. If there's anything you'd like to hear about on our Facebook or in our post comments. You can see previous episodes on horrormovietalk.com. Subscribe to us and rate us on iTunes. Special thanks to...
I'm going to say Mark. For giving us feedback on, what he wants to hear about the ratings.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Bryce.
I'm David.
And this was Horror Movie Talk.
Hooray!